Good Shabbos. One of the most important moments in history happens in this week's Torah reading, and yet we don't mark this occasion with any sort of holiday or commemoration. The Mishkan is completed, and Hashem descends to dwell within it and be among His people. This moment represents the fulfillment of Hashem's ultimate goal for creating the world, to manifest His presence among His creations. Not since Gan Eden has Hashem dwelled in this world. And yet, this climactic return, this triumphant return occurs without any of the fanfare or drama of the splitting of the sea or the revelation at Sinai. It happens quietly and with a tone of inevitability, as Hashem promised all along He would dwell in the Mishkan after it was constructed. And I believe there is a message in how quietly and undramatically this event takes place. When the presence of Hashem comes to dwell in the Mishkan, one of the greatest questions troubling Moshe was answered. Back when the commandment to build the Mishkan was given, the Medrash gives voice to Moshe's conundrum. He wonders, Master of the universe, the highest heavens cannot contain you, and yet you say, let them make me a sanctuary. How can any physical edifice contain your infinite presence? Hashem responds, reassuring Moshe, Moshe, it's not as you think. Rather, set up 20 boards to the north, 20 boards to the south, and 8 to the west, and I will descend, and mitzamtseim, I will contract my presence among you below. In other words, Hashem says, in order for me to be closer to you, I must be mitzamtseim, I must pull myself back. I must constrict myself to dwell among you. This is how the rabbis explain a vast and uncontainable God can dwell in a finite, limited space. What a beautiful and poignant paradox, this concept of mitzamtseim. Hashem brought Himself closer to us by pulling Himself back, as it were. Clearly a mystical concept, but one that is still quite accessible. And this paradox can teach us how Hashem relates to the world and how we should relate to one another. Hashem is present in this world, present in our lives, but withdraws within Himself so that we can make independent choices. Hashem withdraws in order to give us the space to choose to do good and thereby bring Hashem into our space in this world. This divine self-restraint poses a challenge. It makes it seem as if Hashem has abandoned certain spaces or people within this world. Hashem's presence isn't obvious at all times. But the more we search and the more we invite Him into those spaces where He seems absent, the more Hashem has presence, as He did in the Mishkan. And this is why when Hashem causes His presence to descend upon the Mishkan, it happens quietly, undramatically, without fanfare, because it's as much about Hashem restricting Himself as it is about His presence. The stillness, the quietness of that moment represents those spaces Hashem leaves open for us to fill. We are summoned by the Torah to emulate Hashem and follow in His ways. And this paradox of withdrawal to create space is no exception. When a loved one or friend is facing some sort of struggle, one of the greatest challenges is to know how to be present for them, how to be attentive, supportive, nurturing, while at the same time affording them the space they need to be who they are. There's no formula for how to navigate this other than to be constantly open-minded and listening. But Hashem is our primary guide in demonstrating how to be manifestly present while recognizing that at times we must withdraw to give another the space they need. In our strong desire to comfort another, we must remind ourselves that we can't know completely what the experience of the other person is. Every person is unique, and every person experiences a challenge in their own unique way. That's why we are taught by Hashem to be present, but to constrict ourselves. Withhold ourselves from making assumptions. Withhold ourselves from using the wrong language. Withhold ourselves by recognizing how our actions can land on someone struggling. This is a difficult and important lesson in how we support each other. One that is important to think about, particularly on this Shabbos, as we participate with many other shuls in Yesh Tikva's Infertility Awareness Shabbat. Yesh Tikva is an organization that was formed to end the silence and create a Jewish community of support for all Jewish people facing infertility. With our community's intense focus on children, especially on Pesach, couples struggling with infertility can feel isolated and despondent as they navigate a very child-centered community. This includes couples who have not yet been blessed with a child, as well as couples who have been blessed with a child or children, but are struggling to grow their family further. This year's theme for Infertility Awareness Shabbat is creating space. As Yesh Tikva describes it, creating space means taking stock of our communal experiences and family gatherings to ensure that all present feel welcome and seen. It means that we actively work to be mindful of our language and ensure that it is supportive and kind. We find unique ways to include those who are struggling to grow their families in our celebrations that are sensitive to their pain by asking them in private in advance. As part of our shul's participation in Yesh Tikva's Infertility Awareness Shabbat, we will be reciting a prayer composed for communities to offer on behalf of couples dealing with infertility. Our lesson from the Parsha, though, can help us fulfill this mandate by learning from Hashem how to be present, while at the same time withdrawing to be sensitive to how our language and customs can land on those dealing with infertility. We can create that space where we can be there for each other in just the right way. It's certainly not easy, and there are always bumps in the road. But if we keep Hashem's example forefront in our mind, we can find that divine balance in all of our relationships. Good Shabbos.